A protest erupted in front of the Swedish consulate in Istanbul on Saturday in response to a right-wing politician who earlier set fire to the Quran at a rally in Stockholm. Turkey called it a vile act. The Quran is regarded as the word of God in Islam, and any attack on it is deeply offensive to Muslims. What has upset Turkey just as much is that Swedish authorities apparently allowed Rasmus Paludan to burn the Quran while the police and media looked on. The Scandinavian country has very strong free speech laws. Ankara has now cancelled a visit due by the Swedish Defence Minister that was aimed at helping to remove Turkey's objections to the country joining the NATO military alliance along with Finland. But there are also those in Sweden who don't want the country to join anyway. A few hours after the right-wing provocation, an anti-NATO protest also took place in Stockholm. Some of the demonstrators were Kurdish refugees. Turkey considers some of them terrorists and calls on Sweden to stop protecting them as the price of Ankara's blessing for acceptance into NATO. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his wife were in Bovary near Kyiv on Saturday for the funeral of the victims of the helicopter crash earlier this week. 14 people died in the crash, including a child and the Minister for the Interior, Denis Monastersky. The circumstances of the incident are still unclear. But as well as the tragedy, the big concern for Ukraine is still the lack of agreement among Western allies on whether to send heavy battle tanks to the country. It's a great motivation for the infantry when the tanks are close. Their morale is very high, they feel less fear. With Leopards and Challengers, when we start storming, we would be unstoppable. As Russia reports advances on the front lines, Kyiv is urging its allies to think quicker, saying indecision kills.
In Poland, nearly 300,000 people are without electricity as heavy snow wreaks havoc. Poor road conditions, especially in the south, have caused several fatal accidents, with falling snow also leading to train delays. Emergency services say they responded to more than 2,000 call-outs in one day, and with temperatures expected to plummet further, authorities across the country are on high alert. Further south in rural parts of Albania, heavy rainfall and unusually warm weather has flooded houses and forced residents to evacuate. About 2,000 hectares of land remain underwater in the country's northwest. Yet in the east, heavy snow has cut off roads to some remote villages. The country's drastic and contrasting weather has left several regions without power.
Police in England say British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will have to pay a fine for not wearing a seatbelt. The news comes after he uploaded a video on social media showing him travelling in the back seat of a car without the safety device. The footage was examined by officers in Lancashire in northwest England, who've confirmed Mr Sunak has been issued with a fixed penalty notice. The Prime Minister has reportedly apologised and said he'll pay the fine. It's the second one in a year, after he had to pay a penalty for breaking COVID protocol by attending a party in Downing Street. After being docked 15 points for fraud offences, Italian football club Juventus have fallen from 3rd to 10th place in the country's top league. It's a serious blow for the Turin side and one that could have major repercussions for the club's fortunes this season and beyond. They inflicted the necessary number of penalty points to prevent Juventus from qualifying for the Champions League, not even the Europa League. Of course, Juve could win the Coppa Italia, and at that point, by rights, they'd go on to play in the Europa League. But at that point, with the proper paperwork, UEFA would still find a ploy to exclude Juve from the Europa League as well. It would be fair to involve the other teams too, because it's not fair that only Juventus loses out. Well, given that it's a joint stock company, Juventus has different obligations to its shareholders. Of course, fans of rival side Torino are happy.